All right, we are back with insider betting. We got Israel Adesanya taking on Nassourdine Imavov this weekend in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. First things first, Jesse, how we doing, brother?
Doing good. I hope you had a good time in Philadelphia. We were at the BKFC event over the weekend. It looked like fun.
Yeah. I
Knuckle
guess we didn't talk
Mania.
about that.
Yeah.
Knucklemania 5. It was pretty nuts. I
Yeah.
got to meet Britt Hart. She's one of
Nice.
the BKFC champs right now, and we got a sick interview up. Conor McGregor reposted it. So that was a big highlight, honestly. And it was like so aesthetic. It was on the Rocky steps. Like, come
I
on,
know.
with like the Philly, with like the Eagles flag in the back, like hanging, because it was on Saturday, the day before.
Did you
their
just bump into her
game.
there, or did you like set that up to go over to the steps?
Honestly, so I flew into Philly Friday at like 1 a.m., which
Yeah.
was like technically Saturday 1 a.m. And I was leaving Sunday at 11:30 in the morning. So I was literally there just for the fights. And the fights, unlike UFC, these fights didn't start till 8 p.m., where UFC usually starts at like 3 or 4.
Right.
And so I was like, okay, sick. I actually have like a little bit of time here to check out Philly, you know? So first thing in the morning, I took an Uber and I went to go, like I looked up a place to get breakfast on TikTok and whatever. It was like a breakfast sandwich. It was pretty good. But it dropped me off on like one side of downtown in Philly. And then I literally walked the entire other way. So it took me I went for like an hour and a half, 2 hour walk. And like I saw landmarks along the way. And I'm waiting in line to take a picture at the Rocky statue. And she's there with her belt taking pictures, like literally walking around with the BKFC belt. And I was scrambling because like in full transparency, like I don't know BKFC like that.
Yeah.
So I was like, who is she? Like I gotta look her up. And then I looked her up and I was like, holy fuck, like she's like their top 2 women's fighter, you know? Like I think they have one other one who's been like a dog.
Yeah.
But she's good shit.
She's the chick that in that video when after BKFC in Spain, Conor McGregor pulled on a woman. Like pulled on a woman.
That was her.
That was her. Yeah. That was
no. See, like I don't even like.
Yeah.
Like women, like women fighters are actually way harder to recognize in person as opposed to like male fighters, because the like chicks fight with their hair braided, and when their hair's down and they're like all done up, like it's like it's very hard to tell them
right
to tell that they're the same person, you know.
Yeah. You're also like
really
not
cool.
looking for, I don't know, like I'm not, when I'm like at events, I'm not looking for like female fighters as much as I am for like male fighters. So I think sometimes they're just easier. They blend in easier, so to speak.
Yeah. But even like when I looked her up like online, she came up and I was like, I'm pretty sure this is her, but like I can't tell. Cause she's like all the pictures online are like her like bloodied up after fights. It's like these are two different people right now, you know?
I know.
But anyway, so that's
She's
how
good,
that happened. But yeah, BKFC is nuts, dude. I interviewed a fighter after the fights and he won and he looked like he lost.
I know.
Like his face looked like he lost. He was like all stitched up here. He was all bruised up. But he gave me a fist bump, which like I thought was weird because before going to the fight, I was reading on Reddit and it said if you see a fighter after a fight, don't fist bump them because they're like knuckles are broken. But he reached out for it. It was a very light fist bump, but it was cool. I was like, okay, he's doing good if he's able to fist bump me.
I'm more concerned about the blood and like what's on their hands. I'm just like, I don't want to touch it. I'm a germaphobe. So
yeah, no, that's fair. He was like already cleaned up. Like he was like in a suit and everything. Like he was like it was the end of the night. He was making his way out of the stadium. But anyway,
that's dope.
Cool last night. I'm definitely gonna be going to other BKFC events because I had a good time. And they really stepped it up. My first fight at BKFC was 3 years ago, and they were using like plastic beer pong tables and like folding chairs as like where people would sit, you know?
Right.
And now it's like high production, everything.
They have evolved in a way that like, I would argue, this might sound crazy. I know we got to get started here. I would argue like right now, BKFC to me is like the number 2 promotion in combat, like in non-boxing combat sports. Like it is boxing, obviously, but like bare knuckle, but like in the MMA space, like bare knuckle space, I feel like it's above PFL for me. It's above Bellator's dead. You know, it's above GFL or whatever the fuck that is. You know,
I think the only one that like gives a competition is one championship, right? And those guys are obviously massive overseas, but like in North America, I would agree with you. BKFC is probably number 2.
But because it's not trying to do MMA, it's doing its own thing. It like it stands out. It just stands out more than like PFL to me.
Yeah,
so
I agree. Anyway, let's transition over here. We got the first fight of the night, main card opener. As always, we're not going to talk about the prelims. There's actually some like decent ones. There's a couple ranked fights in the prelims this week. I think there's Jasmine, the fellow Canadian, fighting Bueno Silva.
Right.
And then there's I think the featured prelims also a ranked fight. But anyway, we don't give a fuck about those.
Yeah.
Main card opener, Muhammad Naimov versus Kaan Ofli. Such a hard name to pronounce. I feel like the L should come first there.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Anyway, both of these fighters are coming off of losses. And they were both on pretty big win streaks before their fights or before their losses. Ofli, or no, it is Ofli. I have it wrong, I think. I don't know.
Oh, it's
He lost
Ofli?
his Ofli, yeah. That makes way more sense.
No, it's Ofli. You're right. You got it right.
I did get it right. Okay,
yeah,
my notes say different. So anyway, Ofli lost his UFC debut. He was on an 8-fight win streak before that. And then Naimov was actually on a 6-fight win streak, with 3 of those being in the UFC. So he was 3-0 in the UFC before taking a loss to Felipe Lima, where he, I think there was a triangle choke or something like that he lost to. Ofli is he's a BJJ black belt. So on the ground, he can be very good, but like you can look at these stats, like 0 takedowns, 0 takedown accuracy, no takedown defense. So he hasn't really done anything in terms of takedowns, but he's good on the ground. With that being said, I still got Naimov. I think Naimov is way more well-rounded. Although he might not be a BJJ black belt, he's good on the ground. He can get the submissions in there. He's got 2 subs out of his 9 wins. He's got 6 knockouts as well. I just think being a better all-around fighter, even though he's coming off of a submission loss and he's going up against like a submission specialist in a say, or per se, I still think he's going to get the win here.
Yeah, I mean, it should be noted that this card, I don't know if we mentioned it, is going down in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, Riyadh.
So for you, you're in Central, so this will be about 7 a.m. for you when this card starts. It's gonna be 9 a.m. for me. So I'm very happy.
I think main card.
Yeah, for the main card.
Yeah, main card starts at 11 a.m. Central.
Oh, it does.
Yeah, I think you might be going off of the like when the fights start.
Maybe I'm thinking of the prelims. Okay. Anyways, in terms of this, I mean, it seems like Naimov is kind of like gonna be he's OV last name. I'm gonna assume he's gonna have like the crowd behind him to start off this card. So this feels pretty much like a lock. I would actually say this is like a lock for me. That Naimov is gonna win this one. It's weird. It's always weird to me when I see a OV last name getting submitted. I just feel like I don't see that very often. Like when was the last? I don't know. I feel like I don't see that ever.
Well, I mean, it happened in his last fight, but other than that, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, so look at he got submitted. I've also never heard of Kaan Ofli, if I have to be honest. So because of that, I just have to assume Naimov beat Nathaniel Wood, who's pretty solid. I really like him a lot, and I feel like that's a pretty quality win. And I'm looking at Ofli's opponents. I don't see much here. I think this is a pretty much like hammer home the lock for Naimov here in a parlay.
It's hard being a short and stocky guy who's good at grappling. Like you don't have the length in your limbs to wrap up.
Right.
Like that's what happens here.
Well, that's sort of like Merab's problem a little bit, is like he's a little too stocky, so he can control you, but he has no submissions. Like he's no submission threat whatsoever. And
exactly.
It happens a lot with guys with that sort of body type.
Yeah. So I'm hammering away at Naimov. He's minus 310 for a reason.
Maybe Merab was a bad example because he's literally the champion. So
but Merab, but you're right. Yeah. Like Merab, he's not going to submit you. He literally says it. He's like, going for the submission takes too much energy. So he's just going to take you down. He's going to go heavy on you, keep you down there. And then he's like, get back up. I will take you down again.
Yep.
Yeah. And sorry, to add to that, Ofli just can't take you down. So that's the difference between the two of them.
I have a feeling he will perform Ofli in this fight.
Yeah. Oh, there we go.
Sorry, that was bad. That was really bad.
We'll clip that up.
Yeah.
We got for us Ziam versus Mike Davis. Mike Davis, we just did an interview with, I believe, last week, right?
Yeah.
He's both fighters are on 4-fight win streaks here. For Ziam looked really good against Matt Frivola. Mike Davis looked really good against Natan Levy in his last fight. And yeah, Mike Davis is interesting. You know, he lost his Dana White Contender Series debut against Sadiq Youssef, and then he lost his UFC debut against Gilbert Burns, which I don't know how that happened. I'm assuming it was like a short notice thing because I don't know why you're fighting Burns in your UFC debut. But he's just been unbelievably injury prone. He tore his bicep in his and while he was training for his last fight, so he pulled out of it. That was against Drew Dober. That was in July 2024. So that was he had to get surgery for that one, and now he's back to fight Ziam. Before that, in March 2022, he pulled out of a fight against Jai Herbert for personal reasons. January 2021, he after his fight with Mason Jones, he broke his thumb. He had to get X-rays, and it took some time off again. May 2020. Let's go back to February 2020. He pulled out against Giga Gigadze due to an undisclosed injury, and then they rescheduled that fight, and then he had to pull out again due to an illness with his weight cutting. So like he's just been out all the time. Yeah. Super, super unfortunate for him. With all that being said, I think Fares Ziam is the more technical striker. You can tell when somebody's really technical by like he just has like extremely low volume strikes landed and strikes absorbed, you know. So he keeps his range, he avoids getting hit, he tries to pick his shots. But I think Mike Davis, he's better all around. It's very hard to pick him because he's coming off of an injury where he needed surgery to kind of heal. But I still got Mike Davis. I think he's gonna be really aggressive. I think he's gonna push forward a lot. I think it's gonna be too much for Ziam to kind of for him to have the technical and slow fight that he wants. I know he kind of showed us that he can be a little bit more aggressive against Matt Frevola, but I still got Mike Davis here.
Yeah, so you just mentioned the Frevola fight. So that was actually at UFC Paris, and I was there. I was like that to me still to this day, the Ziam. It was like a weird situation where they were in a clinch with him and Frevola were in a clinch, and then he just like lifts his knee up, and then Frevola was one of the scariest knockouts I've ever seen. He was out cold, I thought he was out for a while too. Like I'm talking maybe like 2 or 3 minutes. Like he was on the ground. People in the crowd were actually worried for him at that point. Ziam has a really interesting body type. He's really long and lanky, so he's going to have to sort of use that, he has to use like his kicks and his length in order to beat a guy like Davis. So I think he's just like super athletic. He's very aggressive. And I don't know. I kind of like the odds on Ziam, if I'm being honest, because I don't really have like a clean pick on this one. It's more of a coin flip. And because I'm doing that, I think I'm just going to take the odds because I think it's basically as close to a coin flip fight as you can get. But I like what I saw from Ziam in the last fight. Like even up until the knockout, I thought he was just like controlling Frevola, kind of doing whatever he wanted. So, Mike Davis is a step up for sure. But I like the momentum Ziam has enough to, to take the odds.
No, that's fair enough. I'll give you that. Yeah. Next up, we got this actually might be one of the most exciting fights of the night, I think. Said Nurmagomedov versus Vinicius Oliveira. To avoid any confusion, Said has no relation to Khabib. I've done my research. Apparently they're friends. But
I watched last week's episode. I saw the you and Cody talking about it.
Yeah,
I was like laughing. I'm like, I just can't wait until they find out that they're not related. This is
I've done my research this time around.
Yeah.
They're not related. And he fights like they're not related as well. He's good. He does have like decent ground game. He can take you down a couple times, but he is a very technical striker, and a very good striker at it. He has 4 knockouts, 6 submissions, and 8 decision wins in his 18 wins. But he's going up against a guy, Vinicius Oliveira, I'm kind of on his hype train, which is weird because he's 35 years old.
I was just thinking the exact same thing.
Yeah,
just thinking the exact same thing.
Is that wrong? Like, there's no.
I don't know because I've been thinking of him as like a prospect this whole time, and I'm like,
29 years old, 29.
Okay, all right, got it.
Yeah, we got wrong stats up here. Well, the stats are right. The age is wrong. But what he does really well is in the bantamweight division. I guess he's a bit of one of the taller guys, and he's a little bit lankier. So he uses his length to his advantage. He doesn't get any of that with Vinicius. Vinicius is taller. He's got a longer reach. And he's got way more power, like way more power. He's got 60 knockouts out of his 21 wins. And yeah, I think that says it all, honestly. I think what's going to happen here is I think Saeed is going to try to come in a little bit more technical, but Vinicius is going to be all over him in terms of aggression. What's going to happen is one of two things. Vinicius gets a knockout, or he's too aggressive and he's going to get knocked the fuck out. I'm going with the former. I think he's going to get the knockout here. It's going to be an interesting fight. It's hard going against these OVEV guys, especially in a place like Saudi Arabia, because they do have the crowd behind them so much.
Right.
But at the same time, I'm jumping on the hype train, and I got Vinicius Oliveira here.
Yeah, I don't hate it. Speaking of incredible knockouts with knees, Vinicius Oliveira, I'm pretty sure it had one of like the most insane knockouts last year from like a flying knee. It was absurd. But just like thinking about it, because you mentioned that you think this fight will end by knockout. I don't blame you for that. But Nurmagomedov, it seems like he only has 6 knockouts in his 4 of his 18 wins are by knockout. So for being a guy that's like a kind of a he is a very good striker. He doesn't get a lot of knockouts. He wins by decision a lot. And I'm wondering if this decision is the bet for Nurmagomedov for me personally, just because yes, I see if I think if one person wins this fight by knockout, it's going to be Oliveira. And he does have some like quality wins. Like he just beat Ricky Simone as well, who is who was literally like number 7 or 8 ranked bantamweight just like a year ago. So that's a pretty quality win in my book. But I don't know. I'm kind of liking Nurmagomedov by decision here. I'm curious what the odds are that are. By decision is a plus 180. So if you feel like it, that's
that's not bad. I think you're right. You know what? I think what I was trying to say is that I think Oliveira could get caught. And if he gets caught, he might not get knocked out. He might get dropped. And then Nurmagomedov is just going to be all over him.
I think he could get just getting too aggressive. He could get exposed early and then take a little too much punishment to the point where he's just like he's not as explosive in the later rounds. And that's where Saeed could do a lot of his good work. But it's actually a really good fight. I didn't even I didn't have my radar on this one, but like just looking at it, I'm actually kind of more excited about it because I think this could be like potential fight of the night stuff on this card.
I agree. On to the feature fight. This one is going to be a stand and bang for sure. Neither of the guys have tried any takedowns in the UFC career. Can't blame them. We got Sergei Pavlovich coming up against Jairzinho Rozenstruik. They're just going to hammer away. When I first looked at this fight, I was all over Pavlovich. Pavlovich has basically been everyone that Rozenstruik's lost to. And that was like my initial kind of gut feeling. But then the more I look into this fight, the more I think about it. You got one guy who's got all the momentum behind him, being Jairzinho, coming off of 2 wins, and you have one guy who has 0 momentum and is looking to work his way back into the win books here, right? Pavlovich is coming off of 2 losses against Alexander Volkov and Tom Aspinall. And the other thing I should say about Jairzinho is he tends to lose to the big guys, and by big guys, I mean but the ones that are like ranked highly. He loses to the ones that are really good. He beats the guys that are not so good, right? Like you look at his recent wins, it's Tai Tuivasa, Shamil Gaziev, Chris Daukaus, and then his losses are Jailton Almeida, Alexander Volkov, Curtis Blades, right? So with all that being said, I think it only takes one connection to end this fight. And I think Jairzinho just having the momentum behind him, I think could get an early finish. Maybe I'm going too much with the underdog here, but I do genuinely think it can happen, although not likely to happen.
Yeah. Before this recent losing streak for Pavlovich, he was on a 6-fight knockout streak, I believe. And then he loses to Tom. He gets the interim title shot. When he got the interim title shot, I mean, I don't think there was like a scarier guy in the UFC than Sergei Pavlovich. I mean, just go put yourself into a time capsule up to that point, leading up to that interim title fight. Pavlovich was considered like the big bad wolf of the UFC. He was the scariest guy in the UFC. And it's like the way we view him right now versus how we viewed him back then, like, could not be more different, right? It's huge, just a huge contrast. And like, yeah, you're right. Like, Biggie Boy is probably like one of the more underappreciated heavyweights right now, just because, you know, he got knocked out by Ngannou. He lost to guys like, he lost to Volkov a couple years back. He just doesn't seem like one of the big threats at heavyweight, but he's fighting really well right now, and he's definitely got the momentum. To me, this is all about confidence, and Pavlovich has lost his confidence in the past couple of fights. I think fighting at home is enough to not at home, sorry, in Saudi Arabia is enough, where the crowd will be behind him. He will have home field advantage in this fight. And I think that it'll be, I think that'll be like enough juice for him, because I just see like a gap in terms of like threat level on the feet. I think Rozenstruik has power, but not like Pavlovich has like a different level of power. I just feel like he's a notch higher in terms of what he can do. And I just think I'm going Pavlovich because he needs to win the fight. Like, he absolutely fucking needs to win it to get back, because I think that he has a chance to win a title. And if he loses this fight, he's going to push that opportunity back like 2 or 3 years, you know. So he needs this one. I think he's taking it seriously. I think he'll get it done, because I think that he's a level above Rozenstruik. But you know, Rozenstruik has been proving me wrong all so far the past year, so I wouldn't be surprised if he does it again.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
I mean,
Why did Pavlovich have home field advantage in Saudi? Does he train there?
No, I'm just assuming, just because it seems like the Russians have more of a home field in Saudi Arabia.
Fair.
You know,
Fair.
like, it seems like it, like Nurmagomedov, the OV last names, the Russians, seems like they have a little bit more. That's why they're being put on this card, because they're closer to that side of the world, you know. So
I think it's more on the like the Islam connection versus
sure.
sorry, Islam as in like the religion, not
Oh yeah, no.
yeah.
It's not a true home field advantage, like, at all. I'm just saying, like, I think it's close enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying.
I think he'll have some like Russian contingent in the crowd for him and stuff.
Agree.
So
Agree.
yeah,
it's fair enough. Co-main event. This is going to be a super exciting fight, I think. Shara Bullet versus Michael Venom Page. Honestly, I don't feel like I have they're very similarly styled. They both like fight really weird. They both have the knockout power. MVP's coming off of a loss to Ian Gary, but he beat Kevin Holland, so he's 1-1 in the UFC. Shara Bullet hasn't looked that good in the UFC. Like, not as good as we thought he would be. But he looked good in his last fight, and he had a really a very, very. I don't want to say it was like one of the craziest knockouts in the UFC, but it was like one of the most like unconventional knockouts in the UFC. You know,
yeah. Slightly overrated, a little bit knockout in a way, and I know that, and I'm not trying to like dismiss it in any way. It was just like I think it was like very cool looking, because it was.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Like
bizarre.
That's why I didn't want to. That's why I didn't want to say crazy. It feels like it's just like uncommon. You know.
Yeah.
But I honestly don't want to pick a winner, because I like my heart says MVP, my brain says Shara Bullet. So like I don't think I'm gonna put any money on this fight. I really don't know who to go with.
I can maybe try to sway you a little bit here. I think MVP is so fucking hard to hit, dude. Like, this guy he has like a little bit of like that Floyd Mayweather in him, where he will dance around a fight a lot, and he gives off the illusion of the fight has a lot of action, because he's moving so much, because he keeps his hands down, he's very unconventional, he has highlight reel knockouts, all that stuff. But so far in the UFC, it's been 2 decision fights, and people do believe that he might have beat Ian Gary. That there's some dispute over that decision, and he still does not have like a highlight reel moment since joining the UFC. This is definitely favoring Shara Bullet, no doubt about it, and he's rightfully the favorite. But I actually think that there's a good argument that Shara is going to have some trouble getting his reps in against a guy like Michael Page, who's so unconventional, because Michael Page can implement a lot of the MMA in ways that Shara Bullet's not willing to do. He clearly just wants to strike and stand and bang. And I don't know if it's going to be. I'm a little worried that this fight's not going to be as insane as people are thinking it's going to be. I think it might be a little bit more of a who blinks first type of fight.
Yeah.
And I feel like Shara's gonna be a little too trigger happy. I think that might be Michael Page's strategy, because it's like, this is Shara's biggest fight ever. He's coming in really. Michael Venom Page is no joke, dude. The guy is really talented, and he's great defensive boxing. And I think he could give Shara a lot of trouble. I'm actually predicting an upset. I think Venom's going to get it done. And I think it's going to be like a split decision. But as I'm saying that out loud, I'm like, split decision makes no sense, because there's no way they're going split decision in Saudi Arabia and then not giving it to Shara Magomedov.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I have a feeling decision win for Venom Page. I think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, I'm also leaning MVP, but it's just hard, I guess. I got like every underdog on this card. Fuck.
I know. I'm the same. I'm kind of liking most of the underdogs so far.
Yeah.
It's a good fight, though.
Main
it's a good
event.
fight.
Yeah, it'll be a great fight. Main event of the night. Izzy is coming back, baby. It's gonna be an interesting fight. I think Nassourdine Imavov, he's a pretty good striker as well. I think I think his game plan going into it is going to be, I'm going to do exactly what DDP did. I'm going to do exactly what Sean Strickland did, and I'm just going to toss him up against the cage and try to hold him there as long as I can. I don't know if it'll work. I think Izzy's going to come back better than he's looked in his past few fights, just because, although he actually looked really good against DDP, I think a lot better than he did against Sean Strickland.
100%, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm going with Izzy. I don't have much to say. I think we're gonna see a lot of what we've seen in Izzy's recent fights, but I think he's gonna he's taking some time off. I think he's gotten a lot of time to think. I think he's maybe even figured out how to kind of combat these like really high pressure guys,
Yeah.
So I think Izzy's gonna get the win here and get back in the win column. I don't know what that means next for Izzy. Because obviously I think this division is kind of like stacked at the moment, right? Like you have DDP Strickland coming up. Hamza was promised to fight. Oh, did I freeze?
Sorry, I got you. I lost you for a second. Go ahead.
Oh, all good. Yeah, no. So yeah, like let's say Izzy gets this win. I don't know what means next for him. Like you got Strickland DDP coming up. Winner of that's probably gonna fight Hamza, and I'm assuming the loser of that, if Izzy wins, fights Izzy, but I'm not too sure, honestly.
Yeah, it's weird. This is kind of a little bit of a weird fight, and I'm not saying it doesn't make sense from like keep the rankings moving standpoint, but it's just a weird fight because Imavov is still kind of like an up and comer in some ways, still trying to kind of prove himself a little bit. And, Izzy has just been so good for so long, so dominant for so long. To me, this says a lot about who Israel Adesanya is, that he even took this fight. Because it just says to me that he's kind of just anywhere, anytime, any place sort of guy. And I'm sure they're paying him handsomely, to fight in Saudi Arabia, especially to take this fight. You need a big name to headline these Riyadh cards. So it makes a lot of sense that you would have a guy as big as Izzy. But I mean, it's still like a risky fight for him. And to be honest, I like the fight for him a lot. Imavov has really good striking, and yes, he can wrestle and he can grapple. But I think Izzy's like one of the all-time great guy at like takedown defense. He's always been really good at that. And I don't know, man. I think that the guy is still genuinely hungry to win. And I think that him taking this fight is kind of proof of that. Because the reason why I say it's weird that he's taking this fight is like, look at like somebody like Kamaru Usman, who was champion for so long, and since he's lost to Leon Edwards, he's only fought Hamzat, and he moved up a weight class to do it. He's not fighting any of like the welterweight contenders because he doesn't have to. Like, what does he have to prove? What does Volkanovski have to prove by fighting like Diego Lopez, or by fighting, like some featherweight up and comer, like a Bryce Mitchell or something? You know what I mean? He stands fucking nothing to gain from doing that. So Izzy, it's like he kind of just wants to fight, and you got to respect
it. I think so too.
Yeah.
Yeah. As soon as you said he's still hungry, I was like, yeah, look at Kamaru Usman. You
Yeah,
know,
exactly. And
that was my first thought.
I like
But
Izzy here. I like Izzy a lot in
yeah,
this fight. I think he should win this one.
yeah, I like what you said as well. Like it shows that like he's willing to fight anyone. I do think the UFC probably gave him an ultimatum, and they said like fight Kai Baralho or fight Imavov, and then work your way back up type thing, or like keep waiting, for something to come.
Well,
Um,
I
and I
think
think he
that
chose Imavov.
yeah, I mean, sure that you might be right about that because like
Yeah.
one of those guys needs to fight and beat somebody like Izzy. It reminds me a little bit of when Arnold Allen fought Max Holloway. They
Mm,
fought a main event fight night. This is like a very similar scenario to me where that was like Arnold Allen's big opportunity to like fight for the title. He beat Holloway, you're fighting for the title. He ended up losing a decision. I feel like something similar is going to happen here. And it's funny. I think that the UFC really wants Izzy versus Hamzat. I feel like they really want Izzy to get the title back or for Hamzat to beat DDP and then they make that fight eventually. Because I feel like
yeah.
that's like in terms of what you could do at middleweight right now, that has to be the biggest possible fight you could put on. So
Yeah.
so I think that that's where they want to go because they're, whether it's Strickland or DDP, I feel like Hamzat's going to be champion. And
Yeah.
I think that if Izzy wins this fight, I think they'll wait it out because I don't think DDP gets an immediate rematch, and I don't think Strickland would either. So I think
Yeah.
that's where they're
Yeah.
going.
We'll see what happens. It'll
Yep.
be an interesting fight night though. But yeah, solid UFC fight night
Yeah.
for to start off the year, right?
I like Izzy by
Um,
finish, by the way. I think he can get
I
a
think
finish
so
here.
too.
Yeah.
I think so too.
So
But anyway, bro, it's been a sick episode. I think next
yep.
week we got UFC 312, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Australia, not a good looking card. This card is
No,
better
this
than
card looks better.
than UFC 312. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's like one of the worst pay-per-views I've ever seen in a while.
Yeah.
It's pretty bad.
Yeah. And it's weird that they put like I get putting DDP versus Strickland as the main event, but at the same time, it feels like they could have almost swapped them. But I don't know. Obviously, Izzy's not champion, but like Izzy
Yeah.
has got love in Australia and he fits more on that card.
Well, this would have been an excellent co-main in Australia,
Yeah.
but I don't think you can put it. The problem is like Izzy has to be a main event.
Yeah.
He's too big of a star.
It's
So
Izzy. Yeah.
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 And by
Anyway,
the way,
brother.
fun fact about Izzy before we go:
Yeah.
this is his first non-title fight in 6 years.
In 12 fights, right? Something like that.
Insane, bro. His first
Yeah.
non-title fight since 2019. It's
Yeah.
just unbelievable. And it was
Yeah.
against Anderson Silva. So,
Yeah. I think we'll see a good one here. I really
yep.
do.
All right, brother.
Awesome, brother. Okay. Talk next week. Like, comment, subscribe. I always forget.
I know, whatever.
Hell
Look at the
yeah.
beginning of the video.
Yeah, fair enough.
All
These
right.
guys.